An empty space stands still and bare. The sound of footsteps then fills the air. Look up, look up, look up and see. What color will it be?
Green!
What is green?
My balloon is green.
What else is green? The grass is green. Leaves on trees are green. Tasty green apples. Can you spot anything that's green? Some vegetables are green. That cress needs a haircut. Some fruits are green. A green lime is tangy. A lucky 4-leaf clover. The Statue of Liberty looks green. A spiky cactus. A prickly leaf. Green means go. Ooh, it's a friendly alien. A hungry green caterpillar. There are lots of things that are green, aren't there? You can use paint to make art.
What colour is this?
Green!
You can make green by mixing 2 colours together. Blue and yellow. We can use our green paint to make patterns. We can also use our green paint to make something else. Now to paint the shapes.
Green makes me think of trees. Green makes me think of grass.
Let's use the shapes to build something. And finally, pour some more paint over the top. To be green means lots of things like looking after plants and wildlife by growing vegetables, planting wherever you can, and by reusing and recycling rubbish. It's good to be green. Green is for grass and growth, beauty high up in the trees, and low down in the ponds. Green is for reptiles and rebirth. Green is for eyes opening and energy from fruits and vegetables. Green is go for environmental change and ever-growing greenery. Green is for night lights and nature in all its wonder. Green.